Now let's take a look at these 4 things that we saw in the marriage supper of the Lamb. Number 1, there was rejoicing and worship at its arrival. When the marriage supper of the Lamb started, all of a sudden he hears this voice like many waters, and people are praising and worshiping God, and they're rejoicing. One day, well, Paul said it. Paul said the sufferings of this present age cannot be compared to the glory that will be revealed in you. One day we will be on the brink of eternity, a brink of living for Him, with Him, for the remainder of our lives. There will be no light in this city because He will be the light, and we will be rejoicing. I think the word rejoicing, it just seems to not be enough. And we will worship Him. And what a worship service that will be as we begin to cry out for His glory and for all that He has done, and that the Lord omnipotent reigns. Now then it says the wife makes herself ready. And I've done a lot of weddings. I don't know how many weddings I've done over 38 years of being a pastor. I don't do many now, but there was a time I did them all at the church. And I did a lot of weddings. And I'll tell you that the bride takes a long time to get herself looking good. Right, gals? That if you ever want to look good, you're going to look good on that day. That's the day you want to look good. And so you take a long time to get yourself ready. In fact, for more than one wedding, we waited past the time that it was supposed to start because the bride wasn't ready yet. And you ain't going to have a wedding without a bride. You got to have the bride. And when the bride comes out and she's all, she's got a dress that she picked out, looks fantastic. She's got all of our makeup on. I like to look at the groom because it's the first time that he's gotten a glimpse at his bride. And I like to look at the groom. Sometimes their eyes will tear up. There was one guy would lower a lip, quivered. I thought, man, get a grip, dude. Get a grip. But their responses are generally like literally having their breath taken away from them. As they see their wife around the corner, and I say, let's all stand. The music starts as she comes walking down. So how do we make ourselves ready? How do we, as it were, put on the best makeup we could put on, get the best dress? By living for Him today. Everything I'm doing today as His bride is getting myself ready for Him. If I'm living worldly, if I have unconfessed, unrepentant sin in my life, then I'm not getting myself ready. We want to be ready for His return. We want to be watching for Him. We're waiting for Him, and we want to be ready. And so if there's something the Lord convicts you about, and the word convict means convince, it doesn't mean condemn. He convicts us so we can get it out of our lives. If there's something that you are convicted by now, then make the change. Get yourself ready for Him. Now she's granted to wear this white linen, and the linen, we were told, is the works of the saints. So we make ourselves ready by walking faithfully with Him, having things right between us and God, but then everything we do for Him that is done in the right motives becomes the white linen that we are wearing. It's at the marriage supper of the Lamb. So that whatever we're doing for Him, if you think that there's no value in doing anything for Him, we ought to do things for Him just because it's Him. But there will be a sense. And I think about the judgment where everything that we do with the wrong motive is burnt up out of Corinthians, and that which remains is gold and silver and jewels. But that's the works of the saints, which will become part of the linen that the bride wears. And finally, blessed are those who are called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. Here's how we're called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. If you believe in Him. In Romans chapter 9, God says, Esau I have hated, but Jacob I have loved. He's talking about nations, by the way. He's talking about Esau and the Edomites, and Jacob and Israel. And the Edomites didn't believe in God, and the Israelites did. When he gets to the end of that, and then part of that chapter, he says, God makes some vessels for honor and some for dishonor. Now, people want to add to that their own little statement. God makes vessels of honor and dishonor before the foundations of the world, unilaterally choosing who he wants. They want to add that in. It's not there. At the end of the chapter, in verses, I think it's 29 and 30, 31, it says, Israel does not, he's talking about the nation of Israel now. Israel is not saved because they didn't choose to believe. So they become a vessel of dishonor because they didn't believe. But the Gentiles will believe, those who will believe in him. Why? Because they believe. They trusted in him. So it is by believing in him and saying, I trust in you. And that's another way of saying trust. Lord, I trust you. I'm going to live for you. I'm going to do what you want me to do. I'm going to be a follower. I'm going to be a disciple. That's how you are called to the marriage supper of the Lamb.